Okay, it's Criterion Collection season because it's the Barnes & Noble sale at f***ing Barnes & Noble. Because of the 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble that's going on right now during the month of November. But that always brings to question, hey, it's a 50% off sale, now's probably the best time to pick up a box set. Which is true. It's also the only time I buy Criterion. I stock up in those 2 months. What am I supposed to do? So obviously the big box set that's probably going to be the hottest item during this sale is the Wes Anderson Collection box set. Now that set, I did make a little video reviewing that on the channel. I don't own it. Reviewing the announcement of it and kind of my thoughts. You can check that out if you want to click on that. I'm not going to be buying that box set, and that's really just because I already own all of Wes Anderson's movies that are in the Criterion Collection, including the 2 new ones that just came out. Anyway, it just doesn't make sense for me to upgrade the whole collection to 4K. Also, not a huge fan of the packaging. That's just my personal preference. The other one that came out and I could have picked up at the end of the July sale but didn't is the Antoine Donnell set, which is the 400 Blows anthology, I guess. The same character from Francis Truffaut's 400 Blows. As he kind of journeys through life. I think there's 5 films in that box set. That's one that I'm really curious to picking up. Also, don't you think that the box set art looks suspiciously similar to Wes Anderson's? Just a big beige box with no images. I don't know. It's just like not the most exciting thing to display on your shelf. Whatever. But that's one of the allures of box sets. Something nice, big, pretty to throw hundreds of dollars into that, hey, you get to put it on your shelf and everyone that walks in your room, which is no one for me besides my wife, can look at it and be like, you are cool. But actually, you just spent way too much fucking money. Why did you spend that much money on a bunch of movies? Anyway, art's not the only reason, but I will say if the art is more compelling, that might just be enough to push me over the edge if I'm kind of on that edge of buying a movie. But hey, enough of me jib-jabbing away. Let's go ahead and talk about these. So I'll go over a few that I have in my collection, then I'll talk about a few that are available online that seem to be really popular ones, and then I'll go back to a couple in my collection. So first, I'll just start with a couple of the smaller ones that almost wouldn't even be considered a box set. Except for the fact that they're all stored in a box. And that is, first on my list, I guess, is a Whit Stillman trilogy, which collects all 3 films that are, I guess, spiritual sequels in a way, directed by Whit Stillman. And that is Metropolitan, The Last Days of the Disco, and last but not least, Barcelona. My least favorite, for sure. Whoa. Now, these movies I wouldn't recommend unless you've already seen a Whit Stillman film because they have very particular sense of humor and feel like some of the most niche films that I have in my collection. I've heard people compare Whit Stillman to Wes Anderson. I don't think that's a fair comparison at all. I think that his movies, they're a complete unique breed that if you heard comedy or well-written and you go into it with those expectations, you could still be like, that was not a comedy and that was not well written. But someone else could come out of that thinking that was the funniest movie I've ever seen with some of the most intelligent writing that I've ever heard in a script. So it's very polarizing in that way. I really like them though. I will say though, if you try to watch all 3 in similar proximity to each other in the way that I did, they can kind of start to feel a little overbearing in their, I don't know. Barcelona in particular just started to kind of piss me off the way that the characters like, okay, we get it. You're the smartest person in the room who's fucking writing the script and telling us this movie. Anyway, I made it sound like I don't like these. I actually really, really enjoyed Metropolitan and The Last Days of the Disco, but for some reason Barcelona left a bad taste in my mouth. The 3 Colors trilogy. These are all on 4K now. I don't know. Yeah, there's a 4K box set, right? Another trilogy I don't recommend just buying without having seen one first. If you haven't seen a Kieslowski film, the other one I have in my collection of his is The Double Life of Veronique. They're like art house 90s indie films. Very slow, very meandering, and they don't really follow a lot of traditional story structure. They're a little bit dreamy, vibey, and also can be very sad and moody at the same time. So, but yeah, anyway, I have it. So I do like how they come in these little books as opposed to the hard cases like the Whit Stillman trilogy. So that's nice. And then it comes with a nice book filled with essays there. But yeah, red, white, blue. Or blue, white, red. That's the order that they were released in. Okay, another trilogy. I'll just get the trilogies out of the way real quick. This is Wim Wenders' The Road trilogy, which is Alice in the Cities from 1974, The Wrong Move from 1975, and Kings of the Road from 1976. Also with these book casings. I have watched Alice in the Cities, Wrong Move, but I have not watched Kings of the Road. I like them, but when compared to the rest of Wim Wenders' work, which makes sense. I mean, these are his first films. This came before The American Friend. Every Wim Wenders film that I have watched that is in the collection outside of this, honestly, I love. He might be my favorite filmmaker living right now. The Road trilogy, I think, well, I haven't seen Kings of the Road, which people say is the best one. However, it is over 3 hours long. Big reason why I haven't gotten to it yet. Alice in the Cities, I enjoyed quite a bit. Wrong Move felt a little out of touch with some things that I feel like kind of bothered me, which kind of stilted my follow through with the trilogy, I guess. They also are more like spiritual sequels. You don't have to watch any one of them prior to the other. I'm sounding like a freaking hater on all the box sets in my collection. I do recommend the Road trilogy, but I would recommend it last if you haven't seen the rest of Wim Wenders' films that are in the Criterion at the very least. And we'll do our last trilogy, which is probably my favorite of the trilogies I own, and that's the Before trilogy. One of my favorite trilogies of all time, Richard Linklater, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. Also, you get these cool little books with some nice artwork. So this is a trilogy I will always recommend. I love it. It's up my alley. I like watching people talk and walk and fall in love. And fall out of love, maybe, too. Okay, so now I'm just going to review a couple. Before I get to the rest of my box sets in the collection, I wanted to just talk about a couple that are in the Criterion that I haven't purchased. Obviously, they categorize box sets as just any like package of 2 films. I don't think that the 3 Musketeers, 4 Musketeers counts as a box set for me because it's literally just a jewel case, or not a jewel case, a plastic case. Whatever, though. That's I'm just going to talk about a few of these. Okay, CC40. This one obviously is probably the biggest one that we have to talk about. It's the biggest box set that's available in the Criterion Collection. It has 40 films from the Criterion Collection. It's the essential films in the Criterion Collection based on all of the closet visit videos. So they took all of those Criterion closet visit videos, and then they just determined which were the movies that got brought up the most, and they put them in this box set, basically illustrating that this would be an ideal set for someone who's getting into Criterion for the first time. It retails at $7.99, so it's $800. So if you get it during 50% off sale, it's $400. That is $10 a film. It looks like a beautiful set. It's a set I won't be buying, unfortunately, just because there are a lot of films I already own. So it's interesting because I don't necessarily know who this set is for, because if you are new to Criterion, are you really going to go drop $400 on this box set or $800 at a different time of the year? I don't know. I think that would be, I don't know. You let me know. If you own this set, let me know, because I think it looks beautiful. But for a lot of us collectors, we kind of like having the spine numbers and being able to display them that way. So if you bought this and then you sold your singular editions of the movies you already owned, it would kind of make your collection feel inconsistent. So that was one of the big ones I wanted to talk about. The Pasolini set is one that I've wanted to pick up, but it would be a complete blind buy for me because I don't know any of Pasolini's films. So I don't know. Is it worth it? Someone push me on Pasolini and I might just get it. And then I can make a video about it. Okay, another big box set that I kind of just wanted to bring up that I see is this 100 Years of Olympic Films, 1912 through 2012. Does anyone own that? I mean, obviously somebody owns it, but somebody in the comments, does anyone own it? I don't know. This is a huge box set. It'd be $200, but it is films chronicling the Olympics. It sounds kind of fascinating, but also like this huge commitment. I guess if you're interested in kind of like the historian aspect of that, just a huge rabbit hole to go down for like a year, which now sounds enticing to me. God damn it. I need to be like retired somehow so I can just sit and watch movies all day. So maybe if you guys help me make this channel a massive success by continuing to watch and like and subscribe, then I can make that dream a reality. And the other big box set, the monster box set, the one that a lot of people have picked up and shown off. They have it displayed on their shelf. One that I think is absolutely beautiful, but I don't think I love Godzilla enough. I do like Godzilla, though. But I don't know. I don't think I'm the target audience, even though I want this really bad. It's just one of those things I want because it looks beautiful. Godzilla's box set retails at $224, so you can get it at like $113. That is a really good deal, I feel like, for this beautiful collection. Anyway, that's the other big one. Pick it up in the sale. Let me know what you guys think. I got 5 more box sets I'm going to go over with you guys. We're working our way up to the big ones. One of my favorites in my collection that I blind bought, because that's what I always do, the Dietrich and von Sternberg in Hollywood box set. I've talked about this on the channel before. I watched all of these films in February, March last year. There are 6 films that are, directed by von Sternberg and star Marlene Dietrich. And I just love this collection. I think it's so beautiful. I really enjoyed every film. I had heard most people talk about Morocco being one of their favorites. In retrospect, I like Morocco, but I think it was my least favorite, and it could have something to do with expectations, right? That was the very first film in the collection, which is from 1930. But they just get better and better. And they're so diverse from each other. None of them are really retreading the same thing. Every one of these films has a different flow. Incredible female characters for Marlene Dietrich to be playing. So I love the venture of going on all these films. There's some fascinating special features on here as well, talking about how innovative these two were as a filmmaker and actor collaborators. The stuff that they were trying to do in Hollywood and the types of stories they were trying to tell were being filtered and handcuffed in so many ways by Hollywood's strict stipulations. They found subtle and creative ways to get some of their themes across in the subtext of these movies that I think makes them very forward-thinking and fascinating to study, and the special features only help you engage in that even further. So, love this box set. I love it so much. Buy it. I don't know what it retails at, but it's not too bad, I don't think. Bruce Lee box set. I feel like I've talked about this one before, maybe in my 70s video. Who knows? The Bruce Lee box set is just the 4 complete films by Bruce Lee and then the partially completed film by Game of Death. I always have to say partially completed because that movie, outside of the final 20 minutes, just absolutely pisses me the fuck off. It's just right in the aftermath of Bruce Lee's death and the studio being greedy and trying to make the film anyway and using a stand-in and then trying to digitally place Bruce Lee's face over his at certain times. It just looks absolutely terrible. Filming at Bruce Lee's actual funeral, which I think is just completely distasteful and disrespectful because they didn't have the permission or the grace of the family to do that. Yeah, I just think that Game of Death is basically a despicable film outside of its finale. And the finale was something that, Bruce Lee actually, he was the lead part of making that happen. And Game of Death was a movie he was passionate about that he had actually been working on the script for. So yeah, the final result being part of this whole Bruce Lee exploitation thing is just, it's always a bummer to me. But there's a really good special feature on there about Game of Death and the exploitation of Bruce Lee films that happened in China in the aftermath of him passing away, because a lot of knockoff studios tried to say that they had Bruce Lee in their film and then promoted Bruce Lee as being in their film or someone that looked like him and just tried to get away with it. And there's so many films that are made in China that lie and say that Bruce Lee is in their movie, and that's wild to me. But anyway, as far as this box set's concerned, I think they're all worth watching except for the Game of Death, but fast forward to the end of that one, or watch it for historical purposes, I guess. The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, The Way of the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon, all great movies. I really enjoyed each one of them. I feel like I was surprised by how much kind of romantic comedy there is, how much swag Bruce Lee actually has. He's very charming. He's kind of like James Bond in some of these films. Yeah, check it out. Final 3. Up next is The World of Wong Kar Wai. This box set contains 7 films by the director Wong Kar Wai and has this really elaborate and cool packaging, which I'll show to you here. Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite box sets. I think it's just absolutely beautiful, and if you hold it in your hand, just the textures of this case are so gorgeous. I really love all the sleeves. I know some people don't love when discs are in sleeves. They think that that kind of can scratch them. It doesn't bother me. I don't seem to have that issue, but I really love the way that this is laid out. It does feel like it artistically represents the kind of jigsaw composition of Wong Kar Wai's filmmaking style and his approach to filmmaking. Just having this contained in this kind of a odd puzzle box type of container just feels appropriate. I have still only seen 5 of the films out of the 7 in this box set, so I need to get to the first and the last. Those are the 2 that I haven't seen. But I'm a really huge fan of In the Mood for Love. And this is just a standard Blu-ray box set, so maybe they will come out with a 4K later on, because there is a 4K of In the Mood for Love now, which of course is probably the biggest standout film to me in this box set. It is definitely my favorite, my personal favorite. Fallen Angels is probably my next favorite in this box set. It's such a vibey, grungy, night kind of dirty type of movie, which contrasts perfectly with Chungking Express, which I know they are kind of a spiritual sequels to each other in a way. It's kind of like a part 1, part 2. Fallen Angels being kind of the nighttime or darker version of Chungking Express in a way. And then Happy Together, which also stars Tony Leung. He's in the Mood for Love as well. I was really quite taken aback by that movie. I thought that was a really moving and beautiful love film as well. So, okay. You guys probably know what the next 2 box sets are on here, because I have them in so many of my videos, at least showing them. But I want to give you the breakdown of what these... But I want to actually just like pull out the box set, show you the contents, and give you the breakdown of what's inside of them. So we're going to start with the Essential Fellini. Now this is shaped like a vinyl record, which for me works because I have like a record shelf, and I actually like the way it slots in next to my Bergman box set and my Wong Kar Wai box set. Essential Fellini's box set is, I think, not a lot of people's favorite, and I could understand why, because it's a little bit odd in its shaping. It doesn't really fit on a standard movie shelf or even bookshelf. It needs that extra depth if it's going to be sideways, or if it's going to be this way, it's really wide. So, but for me, I actually really like it just because it works nicely. And if I want to display it like this, I could, but it fits perfectly in my boxes. So, yeah. But opening it up, you have this beautiful artwork here on top showing our star from 8.5, and of course the other characters from within Fellini's box set here. That opens up and you get the films. This is where they're all listed here in the book. I still need to get through most of these. One day I'm going to do a comprehensive Fellini video, and we're going to talk about all of them, so I'm kind of saving up for that. But this contains 15 of his films, so not everything, but what would be considered the essential films of Fellini according to Criterion. And yeah, I really like the way that this box is put together. You also have these 2 little books in here. You have the essays in this nice book, which I think is really nice shape and size, very easy to sit and actually read. And this is the type of thing that I do when I finish the movie. I usually go read the essays from the Criterion. And then the guide to films is kind of like a little, I don't know, it looks like a menu or a pamphlet. This one is actually kind of tricky to look through, because it's hard to kind of hold it open because the pages are so thick. But this tells you kind of about each film, the cast, the story, and just a little breakdown about what's going on in Fellini's life and career, and the successes of these films as we're going through them. So it's kind of like an autobiography through his films, and it kind of tells you where you're going as you're going through the journey of Fellini. So yeah, it's a nice little thing. I like how it has this little strap here too. That way you can easily get this book out with the little thing like this. But anyway, that's that one. Fellini. We just have one more box set to go now. Is my most prized possession when it comes to Criterion Collection. That's Ingmar Bergman's Cinema. Hello! The heaviest, biggest box set in my collection, which makes me want to know, does the CC40 box set feel like this? Is it of the build, make, and quality of this? It looks like it, and if it is, that's awesome. But this box set, I believe, contains like 36 or 38. I mean, it has a shit ton of films. I can't remember the exact number, but it's over 30. This retails at about 400, so you can get it for 200 during the sales. So it's actually half the cost of CC40, but only is a few films shy of CC40. Granted, they're all by one filmmaker, so that's probably why, obviously, distribution rights, and I'm sure there's a lot of cost in putting together CC40 that isn't as required in this one, because it's just getting the rights to one filmmaker and his films. But anyway, let's get into this. So there's two big components here, and This has a big casing for its discs, and this one is interesting because it's laid out in a way as if you were doing an Ingmar Bergman film festival. So it has them designed in a way that's like night 1, night 2, night 3, opening night, the centerpiece, your closing nights. Then you would watch them in this order, which isn't necessarily the order of release. It's more or less tied together thematically how his films kind of work, which is very interesting. I think it's a really cool idea. I like the idea, so I'm not going to shit talk on the idea. I do mentally in my brain kind of wish they were just chronological, because sometimes I'm like, oh, Autumn Sonata, where's that at? So I think it's going to be towards the back, and then it's like in the middle. Whatever, though. It does, in a lot of ways, start with his earlier work, though, like Smiles of a Summer Night. I will say I wish there was something a little more to the pages on this inner sheet here, as well as the discs themselves. They're kind of a little bit plain. That's a minor gripe. And then I guess at the back you do have the film index, and that does tell you where each film is. That's probably the quickest way to obviously look at it. And that puts them in not chronological order, alphabetical order. So, man, I wish it was chronological for that too, but whatever. And then the second component here is the book. This is a nice book because it's the pages, if you could feel the texture of it, they're thick pages. It's a nice texture for the book on the front and back. And then you get all your essays and all of the artwork and stuff in here. And it is nice because you finish a film and you sit back with this thing, and this is going to be the easiest way to actually read one of these essays. So I love it. I think this book helps kind of guide you through the films in a way that, yeah, obviously makes it a more enjoyable experience when you're watching the movies. So I'm the kind of guy, again, who likes to read these things, specifically after I watch any one film. So that is the Ingmar Bergman box set, and that does round out my list of box sets. Whew. I have quite a few box sets, I guess. But what are some of your favorites that I did not cover? Put them in the comments below. There's the Cassavetes box set or the Jacques Tati box set. There's some other ones that I would love to get into at some point when I get into those filmmakers. But I think the box sets are sometimes a great way to digest an entire filmmaker's work. Obviously, that's kind of the inspiration to why they do some of these box sets. But all right, enjoy Criterion season. Get a bunch of movies while you're in the Barnes & Noble shopping. And then follow me on Letterboxd to keep up on the newest movies I'm seeing and my reviews for them. I love you. We'll catch you in the next video.